Back in the seat. Let's go. Back in the saddle.
Okay, you ready?
Hit it. Don't forget, you're going to do the intro music?
Of course I'll do the intro music. Here we go. Welcome to Late of the Rings, a podcast dedicated to Lord of the Rings, the card game. My name's John, and very tall, grave, and beautiful. It's my good friend Emery.
Ah, hello, John.
Hello, sir.
That's I think that's possibly the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
It's got to be up there. It's got to be up there.
I mean, tall and beautiful. Tall is just factual.
Yeah.
Beauty is obviously the eye of some beholders. Am I overly keen on the grave?
Yeah,
bit?
I had to include it. So it's this one is from the Fellowship, from the book, of course, and it's a description of Celeborn and Galadriel.
Oh, I'll take it.
Yeah, but I had to cut out the middle bit because it didn't make any sense. So the full quote is it's not insulting, but it's very tall they were, and the lady no less tall than the Lord.
Ah,
and they were grave and beautiful. I
see. That is very beautiful. That's grave and beautiful of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know who wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, back again. As you said just before we got on the mic, we're back in the saddle. So here we are, ready to kickstart 2025 with the way that we ended 2024. And so
with a 2-month gap.
And have you been up to anything interesting in these last 2 months, sir?
Well, we've had Christmas.
Yeah.
Do
you know what? Every time we record, I feel
we've just had Christmas.
We've just had Christmas. Yeah.
It's the opposite of Narnia. It's like we're not even sure what season it is, but it's always just been Christmas.
It's always just been Christmas, guaranteed.
Well, Christmas was a jolly affair. I shan't go into that in any detail.
No, please save the listener.
No, I've been, I guess there's been a bit of a theme, isn't it, of recent podders. Been kept away from the game a fair bit due to... I was going to say fair meals and foul fare. Well, I can't even say that apparently. I think life's sort of got in the way of being able to play the game as much as we'd liked. But hopefully, yet again, we've turned a corner.
Oh, very, very apt for the quest that we're going to be discussing today.
Indeed,
nice. That would be a lovely bridge if we were going to start talking immediately about the quest, which I find unlikely.
No, so what have I been up to? I mean, not an awful lot, to be honest. I haven't even sort of watched that many interesting things or read that. In fact, I did start rereading Dune.
Oh yes,
randomly because a friend of mine started reading it who's never read it before. So doing a bit of I've never sort of done that. It's a bit book clubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
But we're both kind of reading this book. I've read it before many years ago.
Yeah.
And I think he was sort of inspired by seeing the films and that last series that was on.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
You're fine.
And talking of not watching series, I tell you what else I haven't watched.
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. So, I don't know if you've partaken or not.
Yeah, I think did we not touch on that last time? I can't remember.
Well, no, it was just about to come out.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because when we talked about it before, we talked about the first season, which I'd seen well before you did.
Yeah.
And I tried to be very fair to it and non-judgmental, didn't I? Until you'd seen it, and then we both got quite judgmental after that. I was as open-minded as I possibly could be, and I got to a point in about episode 5 or something, and something happened in it which was a straw that broke the camel's back in terms of just the believability of it all. And I just thought I'm not actually enjoying this. It was very much. I felt like it was very much diminishing
the
whole world of it, and everything's very small, and every single thing was connected directly. And I just thought, no, this is meant to be this vast, I was going to say magisterium. What's the word? Legendarium. Is that the word? Is that a word?
Go with it.
I'm going with it. It was meant to be this vast, majestic legendarium, which was then reduced into this very kind of small story. I felt it might have a vast expanse in terms of geography and time. It felt like a small story.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought Lord of the Rings for me always felt like this huge story, yes, with loads of interconnections, but it just felt like something from history or something.
Absolutely.
Whereas this just felt like a kind of okay-ish show with high production values, but happened to be based in Lord of the Rings world.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know. I thought, why am I?
So did you give up?
Spending my time? I gave up. Yeah, I got about halfway through about the 5th episode, and I thought some things just didn't make sense. Yeah. I don't know if you want spoilers.
No,
really, we don't like spoilers on this show. But
I mean, I'm not judging you for giving up because I, in theory, gave up before it even started. I'm just curious because I know you would be normally quite a completist for this, but actually, that really that's very telling. I think perhaps.
You did the Denethor, and you looked at the first. You turned over the first card of the encounter deck. You're like, nah.
I scried the TV schedule and decided it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Are they doing any more?
Yes. No, actually, I think just this week they've officially announced that season 3 is happening. And because, of course, I read all this stuff, even though I know I'm probably not going to watch it, I heard that they're doing a large time jump. I don't think that as maybe as a plot point. I don't think it's going to be like
this guy turns up in a police box. Oh God, can you imagine? They're starting crossovers.
Oh,
they'd be tempted, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, wherever the dollar is, I guess. Apparently they're going to jump forward, but as I don't really know where they got to the end of season 2, but apparently they're going to jump forward now to a war between the elves and Sauron. So I don't know if it's a true, in inverted commas, war that Tolkien wrote or one that's been made up for Amazon. So
there was mention of it in one line in the appendix.
They fought.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh goodness. And are they still going ahead with the remakes of the actual?
I do not know.
That's gone a bit quiet.
That has gone quiet, and I know that we discussed this when we had our bonus news episode about the War of the Rohirrim animation. That's come.
Oh yeah,
that's come and gone. No, I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen it.
No, because it got a cinema release as we discussed, and I don't know how well it did. But I don't get to the cinema very often, and I think by the time I saw that it was available, it had gone again. And
you want to go onto Tolkien's internet and rather than wait for the. Well, how did you see it? Too late. Was just. You get a monthly.
Yeah, and I opened up the newspaper and I said, "What date is this from?"
God damn it! I must throw this out at some point.
I had the Odeon listings in there. Screen 3. I saw on Reddit that it's from fans, sort of mixed responses. I don't know how it was received critically, but from fans, some fans really, really enjoyed it, and some were less impressed. But one thing that came across, and I must admit this is secondhand knowledge because I haven't watched it yet, so I don't want people to believe this is what I think, is that there was a lot of comments that a lot of people felt that the animation felt rushed, that some bits were beautiful and some of it was very sort of, for want of a better word, cheaply made. And that I was surprised by because I thought from what I'd seen, the production quality looked very high. But so like I said, I can't comment on that firsthand, but that was something I was surprised to read. And then you could start looking at sort of more sort of conspiracy theory aspects of it, of why it was rushed out, that maybe there is a rights issue that in order to keep hold of the Lord of the Rings rights, they have to keep producing things. This is something that Disney has a lot, which is why why we get these sort of, for want of a better word, second-rate Disney films like The Lion King 2 in 3D, is that if they don't keep on making...
Much misunderstood movie, that.
If they don't keep on making films with these properties, they will lose the rights to do so. I don't think The Lion King is a good example, because I don't think it's basically things which are, like for instance Pinocchio. You don't want to it's Disney technically owns the rights for Pinocchio, but of course they don't. It's not their story. Right. But because they bought
that's got to be public. What's it called?
Public domain.
Public domain.
But a lot of these things aren't, because I think actually didn't Winnie the Pooh enter into public domain, which again you'd think, well, it's like it should be still owned by A.A. Milne, but actually it had been owned by the Walt Disney Corporation since the 50s, and now it's...
Yeah, well, so how long ago did A.A. Milne pass away? It's probably been like 70 years or something. Okay, interesting. So they're going to... Okay, well, I think when we discussed that last time, we just seen the trailer.
Yes. Or
did I see the trailer? I can't remember. But I remember thinking, but it wasn't necessarily something a downer on it. It was more me. I was kind of thinking, I need to get over. There's this mental. I was thinking hard to associate that manga style with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Which just actually probably says that you have certain preconceptions which you've built up, or I've built up, and sort of need to knock those walls down or whatever and just enjoy it. I'll give it a go though. Yeah, once it's out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be available for streaming like really soon, because like I say, it had a limited cinema. In fact, it might already be out somewhere, but trying to work out where. I'll have to go back to the newspaper, see if there's any information about it.
Yeah, they'll make it available.
Yeah. But as for the remakes of the films, I do not know. I think there's still the talk of the Hunt for Gollum being made as the next film by Andy Serkis.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
no.
Yeah.
What's happened to us? We used to be so exciting. But, well, we always go into these things open-minded. So,
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But, I mean, it's... The films have it's really been quite a long time now since the Fellowship came out. I mean, it's over 25 years.
No, was it that long? Was it that long ago?
I'm gonna look.
Blimey! Did they come out 3 years in a row?
Yes.
Or was there like a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Didn't the last one come out in 2003? Because then didn't they win the Oscar in 2000 and... Oh, God, I'm going to get my years mixed up now. You're right, it's so long ago. I saw that. That's only 20 years.
No, you're right. You're right. So it's 2001, 2002, and 2003.
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
So, well, pretty close to 25 years.
Yeah, well. Yeah. No, you're only a year and a bit out. Yeah, I mean, it's not that long. But, yeah, as we said, those films... still stand up and will always stand up. I think.
I agree.
I'm like I say, be open-minded, all that, but I just don't see how you're going to better it in terms of capturing the spirit of it. It must be. That's a hard task to do that.
Well, I think we've talked about it many times that everything just came together for the production.
Yeah, exactly.
It
was perfect.
Like I say, we'll go into all of these things open-minded, but the chances of capturing lightning in a bottle like that again seems remote.
Yeah. Let us see. Miracles happen. Well, was there anything that you did see?
No, I don't think so.
I know you started, and I haven't started watching it. You started watching the second series of Severance, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Fantastic.
Yeah, I did enjoy the first. On your recommendation, I watched the first series, and it was that was a lot of fun.
Highly recommended. If anyone doesn't know what that is, I think that is Apple TV. other streaming services
Yes.
are available. Apple TV and an original. Would you call it a sci-fi? I think it is classed as a sci-fi. I mean, it's
You got to say it. You have to say it's sci-fi.
yeah. And
there's no space. It's not in the future. Well, is it in the future? Kind of. Not really.
Well, is it?
It's not. Well, I don't know.
yeah.
Well, it's very much 5 minutes away if it's in the future.
No, but it's really is a if you like the idea of your brain being put through a blender for an hour a week, I highly recommend Severance. And so then, but this was a series which was started a couple of years ago, and actually I came to it late. Again, basically, it's the sort of thing that gets recommended to people, and they say, "Oh," and then if you have seen it, boy, oh boy, do you recommend it? And I had a friend who recommended it to me, and I sort of didn't get around to it. And I went, okay, no, I'll give it a shot, and I absolutely loved it, and then subsequently recommended it to you. But there's been a large gap between the two, the series 1 and series 2, and I think it was partly due to the writers' strike was to do with it. But also I read that they had written it and rewritten it and rewritten it because they were determined to get it right. I don't want to talk too much about it to sort of give any sort of spoilers about what is happening, but essentially it is a show which exists in two worlds with the same characters. And I think in order to write this and make it correct must be an absolute minefield. And I know that they absolutely didn't want to start filming it until they knew that they had got it correct and right through this second series. So I think, we're a few episodes in and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
It is again, without spoilers, it is a wonderful kind of, just in terms of a device for a story, let alone anything else. It's really clever. I loved the first series. Yeah, so I'm waiting to leave. I think what was it, about halfway through now, the second one or something, or I think 2/3 away through,
something like that. No, not 2/3. I think only about a third. I think we're episode 4, but I don't remember how many.
Okay, I'll wait a couple more weeks so I can do it in a couple of binges rather than drip feed.
So but have I been up to anything? I mean, I've been up to stuff, filling up the time, but like you say, not been able to play the game as much as we would like, and also not been able to sort of find a time where both our busy lives can intersect, where we can sit down for a few hours and record. I mean, unfortunately, it's just that's just life getting in the way of fun. But we mustn't let that happen. In fact, that is, if ever there's a truer statement, you mustn't let life get in the way of having a good time.
Indeed. And let's make a New Year's resolution then.
For this year or next year, because it's almost Christmas.
I'm counting it this year. It's almost Christmas. Speaking of which, actually, I've just come to my attention now that you're wearing a slightly Christmassy jumper.
I'm wearing my Christmas Lord of the Rings jumper that I received as a gift from my wife, and I thought, I must put that on. I mean, it's not too late.
That was a kingly gift, and it has the White Tree of Gondor on the front, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Ablazed on my chest.
Well, it suits you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's good to keep the festive spirit going, I think.
I'll tell you what, you've been Christmas obsessed so far. Oh, the shame.
And then what else? I mean, today, talking of being sort of very Lord of the Rings based, I feel like I've gone full Hobbit today, because we knew we were going to record, and so I got up and made sure I was up early enough to had a few things to do this morning, and we're recording on a Sunday, so I knew we were going to have a sort of quite a traditional, if you like, Sunday dinner, not at lunchtime. That would be truly traditional, but nowadays Sunday dinner. And I know how long our recordings go, so I thought, I better prepare the food for this evening. So I've been in the kitchen preparing for dinner for tonight, like we're having some roast meat, so I've been preparing that and the vegetables. Then whilst doing that, I've been eating breakfast. And then alongside that, in a strange sort of tale of Hobbiton, my wife was gifted a pie.
Well, just someone knocked on the door and said, Here you go.
Well, perhaps we won't go into the details, but this pie required eating. And it was, well, when are we going to eat this pie? So the oven went on just after breakfast. And prior to recording, we just ate a pie. A hot beef pie.
I was going to ask what it was, beef pie. Nice gravy in there.
Delicious.
Oh.
So,
do you have anything with it?
Pie and plate.
Pie and plate. Yeah, that's good. If you're having a roast tonight, then you have to, plain pie. Yeah. That works. You got the pastry. You got the It's all fine.
Yeah. So,
so hold on. So you just said, okay. So that was luncheon.
Mm-hmm. And breakfast.
And I guess
whilst preparing dinner.
But was that your first breakfast, second breakfast, or was it Elevensies?
The pie. I'm going to class that as
the breakfast.
The breakfast was Is
that bruncheon?
Yeah, I take that as a brunch.
That was a brunch. Pie was lunch.
Yeah. And now,
roast,
and unfortunately
roast
now,
supper, and then you got dinner after that.
Yeah, and whilst we're recording, I'm missing out on some afternoon tea, almost certainly. But I'm sure I'll be able to pop something in whilst the roast is in the oven.
That is the most important meal of the day.
Which one? All of the above.
Yeah, afternoon tea, surely the most important meal of the day. The one I miss always, but is the most important yet. In true British style.
Delicious. Amazing. So let's not talk too much about this and that and the other. Let us dive relatively straight in to our main topic of the show. So this is... what do I normally say here? This is a
spoiler episode.
Where we will be
so smooth.
Where we'll be discussing a quest, and the quest we'll be discussing is
the Long Dark.
A Long Dark.
No, Long Dark. This is the Long Dark.
So if you have not played that quest and you wish to avoid spoilers, then I recommend that you skip this episode for the time being. However, if you do not mind spoilers or you have played that quest, then we are going to start talking about it from now.
From now. Well, John, do you know what I have in my possession?
Is it the insert?
It's the insert here. I've just noticed on the back it's got... What is this? It's got an advert for something. Dwarrowdelf Nightmare Decks.
Oh.
We've never talked about Nightmare Decks, have we?
Well,
I don't own any. Don't really know what they are. But
well, and you never will.
They're gone.
They're long gone. They're long gone. I mean, actually, they are very, very sought after. If anyone has their Nightmare Decks,
really?
Because they didn't get printed in vast numbers, and I mean, obviously, in fact, all of these quests that we're discussing at the moment are incredibly highly sought after. So, if you have the Nightmare versions, then good for you.
Then you're in for dreams tonight. Okay. Shall I read out the insert?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, oh God, this is a long one. I'll pick and choose. Okay. The Long Dark. Difficulty level 7. To be discussed.
To be discussed.
The mines of Moria are a dark labyrinth of narrow tunnels and wide passages, natural caves and impressive caverns of dwarven workmanship.
Okay.
Impressive.
Yeah.
The heroes must make their way eastward, discovering what they can about the orcs and perhaps even meeting up with Balin for more information. But it is easy to get lost in the darkness. ... Quite ominous. Then it tells you which cards it's played with. Then we have a couple of sections which are specific to this. So the first one is about the locate test, and it explains the mechanics of how you perform a locate test. I guess we don't have to go into that right now. I guess maybe we've talked about that when we go to the quest.
I think that's a good idea. But I would say this was indeed something I had to look up because it doesn't mention it anywhere on the card. So as soon as this cropped up, it was like, Okay. To Tolkien's internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I made reference to the insert sheet. Then we had the next section is about lost effects. And all it says for that is some cards have lost effects on them. These effects are only triggered by other card effects and are not tied to any timing structure or phase of the game. So that's all it says, just to bear that in mind. It's fairly self-explanatory, isn't it, when you're playing the game, I think.
It is interesting, though, because I think the vast majority of things I'd like to discuss about this quest involve timing.
Interesting. Okay. And then all it says is, it's got a little bit about the cave torch, which I think we've seen previously.
Seen it all before.
Yeah. And it just says the same thing it said before. Use the cave torch objective. During the setup, the first player attaches it here, blah, blah, blah. Then it's got a section saying next player.
Oh.
It says the next player is the player sitting directly to the left of the player referenced by the card effect.
Yeah.
If there are no other players in the game, there is no next player. That's that's the bit that's worth bearing in mind. The first bit's obviously obvious. Yeah. So it's not like you are also the next player. There is no next player, which could lead to some interesting interpretations.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because I didn't reread this. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, actually, to be honest, just rereading it now, I've just noticed. I've been going through very quickly in my brain in possible ways. I've yet again inadvertently cheated it. Okay. And then the last section just makes a reference to secrecy again, which is, I think it says that on all of them on this cycle, isn't it? Okay, and that's the insert sheet.
That wasn't that long, but we did skip a large part.
You skipped the main bit. So, shall I move directly to the quest card?
Yep, let's do it.
So there are 2 quest cards here. So 1A is called Journey in the Black Pit. Your party is scouting the mines of Moria, searching for signs of orcs. Dark tunnels and twisting passages spread out in all directions, a labyrinth maze that you could wander in forever if you take the wrong path. Setup. The first player attaches Cave Torch to a hero of his choice. Shall I have a little reminder about Cave Torch while we're at it?
Sure, it's going to come up.
Okay. So the Cave Torch is of type light. Not as in light in weight, obviously. As in
yeah. Although it doesn't specify that.
It doesn't specify, but I'm taking a leap. It's attached to a hero, restricted, important, restricted.
Yeah.
Right. So up to 2 restricted attachments per hero. Is it 2?
Two.
Two.
Two hands. Two hands.
2 hands. Yeah. 2 restricted attachments.
Yeah.
It has an action. Action is exhaust Cave Torch to place up to 3 progress tokens on a dark location.
Yeah.
I think we've seen dark locations before.
We have.
In the previous. Yeah. And it also has a forced effect. It's forced. After Cave Torch exhausts, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If that card is an enemy, add it to the staging area. So, obviously what this is telling you right away is this can help you explore locations as you get them, but sometimes at the cost of potentially getting another enemy into the staging area.
Yeah, and I know we touched on this before, but we absolutely love the theming of this. That if you light the torch, yes, you can explore an area quickly, but of course that light draws attention, and if there's an enemy coming by, it's going to spot you and it's going to join and go. It's going to come at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
It's great stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just have a look down around this corner. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Okay, so that's it for 1A.
Yep.
I'm going to flip it over. Okay, so this one requires 13 progress to get through. 1-3. When revealed, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard X locations, where X is 1 less than the number of players in the game, but a minimum of 1.
Yeah.
So if you're playing solo, it's 1.
Yeah.
If you're playing 2 players, it's 1. 3 players, 2.
Yep.
This is all for... What was our friend's name?
Oh, I
We
made
always
up. I
forget.
made up tester.
Not Rupert.
No,
Peter. No,
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Where have I got Peter and Rupert from?
Well, Rupert was a troll, but I don't.
Oh, that's right.
But I don't know who Peter is.
Lion, a Witch, and a Wardrobe, probably. Yeah. Anyway, so you end up with X locations. Add those locations to the staging area and shuffle the other discarded cards back into your encounter deck.
Okay.
So basically, you're getting one location, maybe more if you're playing sort of a big multiplayer game.
And just remind me there, even though I just played this just last night, it says when you find the location, you add it to the staging area. It's not, you don't reveal it and add it. No, because it's being discarded.
Add.
Yeah.
Yes,
No.
add those locations to the staging area.
And actually...
Not reveal.
No, but actually I already could have worked that answer out. And actually this is something we've mentioned before, but it's also a very good thing just to remember. The first thing it says you're doing is discarding cards. So you're not revealing cards, you're discarding them. So you're just so you're discarding until you have discarded a location. That location doesn't get discarded; it gets put into the.
You discard it, then you add it.
Exactly.
I guess unless once you discard something, by definition, you can't.
It can't
reveal
be revealed. It's being discarded.
Okay. That's a good way of looking at it. Very good. Okay, and then the last bit on here, it says each location gets +1 threat. If the player's quest unsuccessfully, trigger all lost effects in play.
Right. Okay.
So that's our first reference to lost. So each location gets +1 threat.
Yeah. Now.
So that doesn't mean while they're in staging or whatever, just
in
each
general.
location.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
It's, while you're on this card.
Yeah.
1B.
Now, I mean, I don't know when I was going to bring this up, but it doesn't bear too much conversation, I hope. But I must say, this was where I channeled my inner M and found myself potentially doing some inadvertent cheating. There were several times when I was replaying this game that during Quest Card 1, because it was going on a while, that I eventually forgot about the adding +1 to each location, and then it was after that moving on, looking at the card again. It's like +1. How many times did I do that wrong?
Yeah.
And
how many progress am I taking?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't happen every time by any stretch of imagination, but I'd say maybe 2 or 3 times I played through.
Yeah.
I forgot that. So
I did as well. I think I caught myself while I was doing it, though, luckily, most of the time. So I was going back and I was being very careful about everything because it had been a while since. So we think we played this a few weeks ago, didn't we? With the intention to record, maybe a month ago or something.
I think
or maybe a bit more.
I think I started playing this about perhaps. 6 months ago.
And then picking up it again. Yes, you're right. It is easy though. It's because it's so constant. Because it's just a constant thing on this card.
Exactly.
And once you're into the rhythm of things and you're getting distracted, it's so easy to forget that.
Yeah,
it's a very good point. And possibly you might have even done it. Just you never caught yourself doing it. It's also a possibility.
It's
right?
definitely possible. So.
But yes. And okay, very, very good thing to sort of bear in mind.
Yeah. I still class them as wins. If I won.
It's only cheating if you get caught, even if it's by yourself. Did I catch myself? No. No. In all seriousness, no. If you know you've done it, it doesn't count.
But it is interesting though, because obviously the added threat in the staging on those locations could indeed mean that you don't quest successfully, which would in turn trigger the lost effect. So, if you really want to play this quest correctly, you've really got to keep an eye on that because, obviously these lost effects trigger if you don't quest successfully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty. So how do we want to look at this then? So actually, I mean, it's really, there's not a lot going on this quest card. It is a lot of progress to quest through, for sure. And this added issue that there are these lost effects that will trigger if we don't quest successfully. maybe it's worth just jumping straight to quest card 2 because there's only one more to go. It's, spoilers, it doesn't have much of a shocking twist to it. And then we can sort of discuss the quest as a whole. Does that make sense to do it that way?
I think that makes sense. Yeah. So shall I?
Yeah.
So let me go onto this quest card 2 then. So you've got through the 13 on that. No other special conditions, anything like this. And 2A is called Continuing Eastward. And it says, time carries no weight in the darkness, and the hours creep by with no end in sight. The number of orcs in the mines increase as you head towards the east gate, but there appears to be little real organization within their ranks. You press forward.
Organization.
In fact, I misread that. It says you press onward, not forward. Brings a whole new meaning to the game. Okay. So flip her over, and then we have 17 required to get through this one. I'm going to make a comment about the artwork in a minute. When revealed, the first player makes a locate test. If this test is failed, and we'll talk about locate tests in a minute. If this test is failed, reveal cards from the encounter deck equal to the number of players in the game and add them to the staging area. Then trigger all lost effects in play. Okay. And then also, if the player's quest unsuccessfully, trigger all lost effects in play. If the players defeat the stage, they have won the game.
Okay, so that questing unsuccessfully, what's the word I'm looking for? Stipulation? Is that the right word?
It works. Let's go with it.
Okay.
It's first time on a podcast stipulation. Welcome.
That remains from quest card 1, so that nothing changes there. So the only thing is we don't really know what any of these lost effects are yet. And this one forces us to do a locate test when we reveal quest card 2. So I think perhaps we should look at what a locate test is, because this is going to come up quite a lot in this discussion.
Okay, so back to the insert sheet. So, okay, we're going to go full Jeremy in a second. There's an example, John.
Oh, fantastic.
Right. Okay, locate test. While playing the scenario, players are at times instructed to make a locate test. These tests represent the hero's attempts to maintain a sense of direction in the mines. A locate test is made by a single player, as specified by the card initiating the test. The player making the locate test may choose and discard one card from his hand to discard the top card of the encounter deck. Oh, something interesting here. I was always picking the top card from my deck, but you can pick any card from your deck, I think.
Read it again.
It says, the player making the locate test may choose and discard one card from his hand. From his hand to discard the top card of the encounter deck.
Yeah,
of his hand. Sorry,
from your hand. Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I made you read it again, because were you taking it from the deck?
I thought it said the deck for a minute.
But where were you getting rid of your cards from?
From my hand.
Okay, so you didn't. Yeah. You didn't cheat. You just can't read.
I just can't read. Yeah, I thought for a minute. Oh, I've been inadvertently cheating, but in a positive way, and it's actually easier this quest, but it is
no.
To discard the top card of the encounter deck. So many of the cards in the Long Dark encounter deck have a bold pass printed in the bottom right-hand corner of their text box. If the discarded encounter card has pass printed in its text box, then the test succeeds and no ill effects trigger. If a card does not have pass printed in its text box, then the player has not succeeded but may attempt the test again, repeating this action until either the test is successful or he no longer wishes or is able to discard more cards.
Yeah.
If a player runs out of cards or declares that he is not willing to discard any more cards to the test, then the test is considered a failure and players should follow the rest of the instructions on the card that initiated the test.
Wow. Really is as simple as that.
Sort of, then there's an example. Shall we?
Oh, we've come this far.
Well, there's a spoiler here as well. See, I don't like this on the insert sheet. So
well, perhaps we don't need it, or it's...
Well, it just references the a card
Go on then.
which has a locate test
Well,
stipulation upon it.
We are in a spoiler zone, so spoil away.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so example, the card Vast and Intricate reads, when revealed, the first player makes a locate test. If this test is failed, raise each player's threat by 7.
Oof.
Remove all progress tokens from play, and trigger all lost effects.
So that not only did they spoil a card, they spoil a doozy.
Yeah, they really picked a bad. They could have just made one up.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they did. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry, it's not Jeremy. When this card is revealed, Eric, the first player, must make a locate test.
Is this the first time we've
Yeah, I think so. Jeremy's like, I'm not having my name put on this. You put Eric's name down, but Eric always understands first. I don't care.
Put it down.
Put it down. I've had enough. Poor old Eric. First he heard of it was when he bought his copy. So when this card is revealed, Eric, the first player, must make a locate test. He can choose to fail the test immediately by not discarding any cards from his hand, but decides to try and beat it. He discards one card from his hand and discards the top card of the encounter deck. It did not have a bold pass printed in its text box, and so he did not pass the locate test. He decides to try again, discarding another card from his hand. This time, the discarded encounter card does have pass printed in its text box. Can you believe it?
No.
And so Eric has passed the test.
The answer is no, I cannot believe it.
He ignores the if statement on Vast and Intricate, and the card is discarded with no further effect. Oh, if this test is failed, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
They love to slightly overcomplicate it when they need to give the full explanation, don't they?
Yeah.
But okay, Eric's done the business there. He's only used one card.
2.
2 cards. Well done, Eric. The Veil of Eric.
Oh,
Isn't that something in Lord of the Rings?
yeah.
The Veil of Eric.
Oh.
Where's that coming to my
No,
mind
it's
from? That just popped in. I was like,
yeah.
wow.
Where's that?
My
come
memory's normally appalling. The Veil of Eric. It's in Gondor somewhere.
from? Now you're asking.
Why do I know that?
That
That's bizarre.
it wasn't there a print on demand quest also?
Yeah. Hold on, I've got the list.
Where,
right
I was
here,
going
in
to
fact.
say, where's your spreader?
I've opened my spreader. That is a spreadsheet, dear listener. Where I've completely geeked out, and it was to track. It's a really useful thing actually, because I've got all of the quests on there, and I've put which ones I'd sort of purchased, which ones I hadn't. Eventually got them all, and then I've marked off which ones I've played, which ones I'm yet to play, and I made some notes against them. But I'm nothing like your tomes of of detail, but just which decks I've beat them with.
Yeah,
Actually, that's basically what it says. And also, I've color coded the first column in terms of so I know which color box I keep them in as well. So if I need to go and get them, I could just open that box. Yeah,
That is smart.
That's quite good for me, isn't it?
Yeah, no, because I have a lot of encounter cards in boxes, and it's like, okay, I need to set up a new deck to play the next quest for the show or whatever, and then it's like, oh, where is that? And that will be my first 30 minutes of playing a new quest is going hunting for the correct box.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's 25 minutes saved for me. I found is number 108. I don't know what the number means.
No.
I think I just numbered, and it's called the Stone of Eric. The Stone of Eric.
But do you think that's what you were recalling from your brain, or do you think it was something?
No.
I mean, it must be something from Lord of the Rings.
When you said it, I thought, oh yes, there is something. There's an Eric a deck somewhere, a set somewhere. But do you know what I think it might be? Actually, I think it's from. So my dad has Lord of the Rings Risk, which we play like once every other Christmas because it takes so long. Like everyone gets involved. I think one of the things on there, that's why I think it's in Gondor. That's where that's gone into my brain. I think that was one of the lands one of the territories or whatever to capture.
Oh, we'll have to look that up.
We'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he spoke a lot about Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Our new favourite tester, much to Jeremy's chagrin.
Yeah, no, Jeremy's out.
Poor Jeremy. Well, there's your locate test.
Okay, yeah, no, so let's summarize that. So basically, if you are forced to do a locate test, you can either choose to fail it immediately. That's sort of step one. You can choose to kind of not do it. And then you haven't not done it, you've just immediately failed. So that's option one. Option two is you discard a card from your hand of your choosing, and then you discard a card from the encounter deck. If that card from the encounter deck has the word pass printed on it, then you have achieved or succeeded. Achieved? What is the word they use?
Hold on, let me reopen the insert sheet. I think they just said the test is successful. I think
so we succeeded then. So
yeah.
So yeah, if you reveal the word pass, then you have succeeded and you move on with your life. If it doesn't have the word pass, you can choose to take the test again, discarding another card from your hand, discarding a card from the encounter deck. If it doesn't have pass, you keep failing. You can keep deciding to keep going, or you can decide to stop. And then at that point of deciding to stop, you have failed the test. And you could be forced into stopping because you don't have any cards left in your hand. So that's basically where we're at. Yeah.
Yep. That's where we're at.
Okay, so.
Quite a straightforward quest.
Yeah, so basically we have to quest through the Mines of Moria, which is vast and intricate. There are a lot of quest points. We've got to get a lot of quest tokens on these cards. And there are times where we will need to find ourselves. And when we do, we'll have to perform a locate test, and then we'll either pass or fail, and that will have implications.
Or not.
Or not.
Actually.
Okay, so how do we attack this? I mean, let's just look at it in broad strokes. In general, did you find this was a difficult quest? Because it said it was difficulty 7. I find this hard to believe.
Well, this is, and I'm not sure whether this is just luck or something. I guess this is my whole experience of this quest. So I used the deck which I had beaten it with before, and it's essentially pretty much the exact same deck as I used for the Water in the Water, the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience of this, played it a few weeks ago and again now, is I've beaten it fairly comfortably every single time I've played it.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that it's called the Long Dark. I think I get the impression that's what's meant to be happening in this quest is you've got enemies coming out at you everywhere, and things are getting flooded, and it's very hard to stay on top of everything, and you've got to try and somehow quest through all this, and you're getting lost, and these tests are coming, and you're failing, and all this. What I was finding in this quest was I was completely controlling the staging area, really quite easily, picking off enemies easily as well. And the questing wasn't that hard. In fact, for locate tests as well, I could manage fairly easily. And often I didn't even need to do the locate tests, just take the medicine that was being dished out.
Take the hit.
So take the hit. So my experience was with this, and again, I should probably try playing it with another deck. We can talk about obviously our decks and stuff shortly, but I've really found it not. I quite enjoyed just getting through it and just seeing the different things that could happen. But I didn't really get that sense of, I think, what it was meant to be doing thematically.
Yeah.
And I was beating it within, sometimes 5 rounds, 6 rounds sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes longer. But I would always beat it fairly comfortably. That was my experience with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I played it quite a few times, and I definitely lost it a couple of times, for sure I did. But the vast majority of the time, I got through it quite not necessarily easily, but I either sort of sailed through it, or occasionally it was a little bit tough, or once in a blue moon I would fail it. But I certainly wouldn't class it as a difficult quest. Now, I think what's interesting, and this is kind of really my conclusions, but we'll come back to it in a bit more depth at the end of the show. But I think the main issue with the design of this quest is the size of the encounter deck.
Yeah, that's exactly the conclusion I came to, because you don't get enough lost effects.
No, it's enormous. The encounter deck is huge.
Yeah,
it's one of the biggest encounter decks I think we've seen to date, and we will indeed see going forward. And because of that, there's such a sort of variety of enemies and locations that come out. There are many times where you would be completely lucky and just not see any of the really nasty things. And then there are occasionally times that you will see them all, and that's just bad luck. I mean, it's not in this particular set, but there is a great cave troll or two.
Two.
And there are times I've had them both, and then that can be difficult. And there are some very tricky locations as well, not necessarily specifically from this deck, but it's such a vast. Okay, I really am going to jump to kind of my conclusion, because it's basically, for me, the strength of this quest is also its downfall, and that's the size of the encounter deck. There's no consistency between games. That you are kind of just wandering around, and then sometimes there's some really tricky things, and sometimes there's no tricky things. And I kind of think that's a little bit of what they were going for with the theme, is that you're kind of lost and you don't really know what you're going to get. But actually, I think it makes the whole thing a bit woolly. That there's no real consistency to it, and there's no. It in a way it does make it thematic that you're kind of lost and going around in circles and not really getting anywhere, but at the same time it's a bit dull, to be honest, because it's just like, oh, okay, what have I got now? Okay, I'm this place, and I didn't really ever feel like, oh yeah, we're in this part of Moria where this is happening. It was just like, okay, yeah, there are some orcs here, and there's a snake here, and
the snake. That was one of the nastier elements.
Yeah, we'll come to the snake in a minute. But yeah, so that's like I say, there's kind of a bit of a spoiler for my overall opinion of the quest, because I didn't think it was that difficult, but I think it's due to the fact that I think during these, because I still class these as early quests, I think during these early quests, the designers were thinking, well, if we put everything in, it will be difficult. But actually, I think they learned, certainly in the next cycle, where they made the decks really small and really concise, it made it a hell of a lot more difficult, because you really had just the same stuff coming at you, and it was very, very focused. There was no respite. And you'd easily get through the deck and shuffle it again, and here they come again. Whilst this one is like, okay,
yeah, I think that's right. So, yeah, and I think having that more concise deck, encounter deck, was, I mentioned earlier about the lost effects. There are a lot of times I thought, well, there aren't any lost effects.
No,
there's only one card out.
Yeah,
and sometimes the lost effect was such a, well, I'll take it. It doesn't matter. And so I think that mechanic was kind of a bit lost on me. Like I say, it could be just, I might have just lucked out completely, just having to have this almost perfect deck for it. But I don't know. But
if you think about the size of the deck, and only the lost effects are only in the specific Long Dark encounter deck. So that there's so few and far between, because they're not even on every card in that deck. And so, like you say, the lost effects, if they triggered, it's like, well, I don't have any, like you say. Okay, whatever. Or they don't really have that bad. I mean, once in a while they would be really bad. So don't get me wrong. And you'd want to avoid it. But also alongside that is the locate test, which involve you finding a pass card. It's the same, is the other side of the coin. There seems to be so few cards with pass on it that it became a bit of a nightmare if you really felt like you wanted to get through the locate test. So it always made, unless you had a deck like I was running, which we'll come to in a minute, which allowed you to really manipulate the encounter deck.
You did it that way.
There were very few points where I would ever risk losing cards from my hand purely to pass a locate test. I'd just automatically just decide to fail it straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you look at some of the lost effects, I mean, shall we take a look at some of the cards?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So they're generally on locations, aren't they? I think for lost effects.
I think so.
Right? So, for example, Silent Caverns. It's an underground location. 1 threat. You need 3 to get through it. Lost. Exhaust all characters.
I mean, it's pretty unpleasant.
But don't forget as well that when you got something like this, you can still use the cave torch to get rid of it. I think all locations bar 1. I think.
Yes.
So if it was something that's really bad, you could still kind of get rid of it. I was tending to do that before we got to the point of triggering the lost
exactly. And now
action anyways.
Yeah, now
effect, that's what I was looking for.
So this is where it becomes a little interesting about timing. I mean, I've got lots and lots of things to talk about with different timings. It will be card dependent, of course, but when you would be forced to do a locate test, which would maybe potentially fail, there would be no action window available in that for you to get rid of that lost card in between, if that makes sense, because your locate test kind of exists in its own bubble. So if you've already sort of started doing that and you realize you failed the locate test and the lost is going to trigger, you can't suddenly decide to get rid of it then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like you say, if you kind of see this in the staging area and you think, well, I want to make sure that's gone in case the lost effects are going to trigger for any reason, yes, you just cave torch it away if you can.
And then take your chances that you don't get an enemy, in which case there's no price to pay, effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I'm just because I've got a list of all the sort of different timing things I want to chat about, but I think actually most of them relate to cards. So perhaps we should maybe have a look at some of the cards, because it wasn't a complete walk in the dark. It wasn't a complete walk in the dark.
Actually, I thought it was a walk in the dark.
But so there are.
I never got the feeling that I was walking down this long dark tunnel.
No.
To quote the famous drum and bass tune. Origin Unknown?
Origin Unknown, yeah.
What's it called? Valley of the Shadows. Valley of the Shadows.
Yeah.
That tune, I used to, when I was in my last years at school, it's going to give my exact age here, I guess. I remember my alarm used to go off at 6:50 every morning.
Okay.
So I'd have a snooze or two, try and get up just after 7.
Snooze button gets hit how many times?
Yeah, I mean, I was meant to do once, and well, I don't want to say a fair few. And for a while, I had it on Kiss FM, which back then used to be a not cheesy electronic and dance music station, and then it got bought out and then became no good. But wherever the DJ was, this went on for about 2 or 3 months. For the last tune, they used to go off at 7. They'd always play Valley of the Shadows. So every day I'd wake up with that radio. And that lady saying, like, walking down a long, dark tunnel, like, every morning. I must have said something about my psyche
this
at the time.
explains
That
a
was the
lot.
first thing that was going into my head every morning.
This explains an awful lot.
And anyway, I did not get that feeling from this question.
Okay. So it's not all negatives then.
It's not all negative. Depending on which way you want to look.
Okay, let's have a look at some of these cards and then see what comes up from my notes. And if things don't come across, then we'll just go through them and discuss them afterwards. So let's have a look at some of these encounter cards.
So do you want me to, the lost ones specifically?
Well, let's look at the lost.
Or anything.
Well, look, anything you like the look of, to be honest.
So Silent Caverns was one we just said, which exhausts all characters, and that's a simple one.
But is that the only... Oh, yeah, that's the only thing on this card, isn't it? So
It's the only thing on the card.
Now, this one you cannot get rid of with the cave torch because it's an underground. It's not dark.
That one's not a dark. That's correct, yeah.
So this one has a... Just to go through the card, it has a threat of 1, which will, in quest card 1, will actually be a threat of 2. And it takes 3 progress to get through it. But you can't just cave torch it away, so you've really got to get through it.
To be honest, I think this one is just, unless you just put it in as your location and quest for it. Yeah, there's not going to do anything else.
I completely agree. I don't think it's even worth any more discussion. So dismissive.
It's got an odd hue, hasn't it, to the rock colour?
Yeah,
there. Greens and purples and off-whites. Strange place for Silent Caverns.
And it's, it's an interesting bit of artwork because I mean, it's difficult to draw silence, isn't it?
This is true. Can I just come back to our quest card?
Oh, certainly. Which one?
2B, continuing eastward.
2B, continue.
2B, continued eastward. I do like the fact that you got our fellow sitting down here and he's taken off his boot and he's emptying out rocks and stones onto the floor out of his boot. That's how bad his day's been. Because he's not... It's like... he's not about the fact he's had to get lost and fight trolls and snakes and all this kind of stuff. But he's had this stone in his shoe and bugged all day. Way. I mean, it's going to do... And he's finally got some relief there. Yeah. He's shaking it. You can almost see him saying, "Why me?"
And what has he done about... Has he propped up the cave torch behind him now? Or I think he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, just shoved it there. Hope no one comes along with his boots off.
Yeah.
His 2 restricted attachments. He's got 3 restricted attachments. He has got cave torch. He's got spear.
Yeah,
and he has boot
and a boot. Yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah, there he is.
I feel for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Okay.
Shall I pick another?
Sure, go ahead. I've dropped my cards anyway, so let's see where we're at. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next one I just happened to pick up is Abandoned Mine.
Okay.
Which has a threat of 3. That's got some quite cool artwork, actually.
Yeah, this is very nice.
This underground and is dark, this one. And it has a lost effect. Lost, return the top 2 goblin enemies in the encounter discard pile to the staging area, if able.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like you say, I mean, sometimes I wouldn't even see these cards. And if I did, the lost effect would never trigger. And I would be using the cave torch to get rid of it.
Now, why would you ever not use the torch on that one? Which is because this one is, if you do get a lost effect, right? I mean, if there was a danger of a lost effect, I'm saying, return the top 2 goblin enemies, and a couple of them are quite nasty. One in particular, I think.
Yeah.
Or you just cave torch it, and then you're going to get a maximum of 1 enemy in the stage. You don't know what enemy that's going to be,
exactly,
but you might not get anything.
Yeah.
So, and like you say, you don't. You've got no guarantee of ever seeing it anyhow.
No. Just if it comes out, treat it as a location. To be honest, when these cards came out and they had lost effects on it, I wouldn't even necessarily read it at the time because they're there.
No,
and
same
it's like okay, well, I'm gonna. I mean, obviously, we are sort of skimming over the fact that the quest cards themselves state that if you fail at questing, you have to trigger all lost effects in play.
Yeah.
But then again, with the deck I was using, I was making sure I could see what was in the encounter deck. I was scrying. I was making sure I never really failed any questing ever. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible to fail questing, but the chance of there being a lost card a lost effect in play was minor, and if there were, then you'd go, okay, I better make sure I quest successfully this time then. And then the only thing I would say is that this is where it becomes imperative that you remember that you have to add an extra threat onto these cards to make it harder to quest through. But then as soon as this came out, I would use the cave torch and get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. May I ask, actually, so, I was saying that I pretty much sailed through this every single time. You said you sailed through most of the time, apart from a couple of times where you failed. On those couple of times where you did fail, did you end up getting a bit, it just got overwhelmed? Suddenly you weren't controlling things and the number of cards became crazy and it made it very hard to quest, and then you would get lost effects and then you would get loads of enemies and all of this stuff.
Well, basically, the couple of times, I mean, I think I don't actually have notes whether or not I failed them, but looking at the ones of the cards we're going to talk about and knowing when it happened, I think it was probably these times. There was one time where I had 2 cave trolls to deal with very early
I
on.
had that yesterday.
And that was...
early's bad.
That was tricky. That was very tricky. And then another time, a card which we'll look at in a moment, Twisted Passage. Actually, we'll jump to that now. So I had Twisted Passage as the card which went into the staging during setup. And then I got a second Twisting Passage during the first staging. So I had 2 of them out immediately. So let's just jump to this one. Okay, so this is Twisting Passage. I think I said Twisted Passage, but that's unlike me, isn't it? This is Twisting Passage. It is an underground and dark location, so you can cave torch it away. It has a threat of 3, which would be 4 during quest card 1, and it takes 5 to quest through it, so it's a lot. So you can't just cave torch this away in one go. And it has a forced effect. So this says, before placing progress tokens on Twisting Passage, the first player must make a locate test. If this test is failed, do not place any progress tokens on Twisting Passage and trigger all lost effects in play. Now again, the lost effects, not such a big deal. But the fact that you couldn't place progress on it is a big deal, because you have to, it's 3 in the staging area or 4 on quest card 1, and I had 2 of them there. So you need that threat gone, and then to actually quest through this location, it's 5. So it's to get those tokens on this card. I actually think this is the toughest location in this deck, and I saw it quite a lot actually. So
interesting.
A couple of things to...
I barely saw it.
Yeah, well there you go.
And I barely saw it, and when I played yesterday, it was on the second quest card anyway.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was questing quite comfortably a lot of the time because I had Faramir out. We'll go through decks maybe shortly, but it wasn't. I'd just leave it in the staging area. It's fine.
Yeah, because then it's only 3 threat, because you're not getting the extra 1 on quest card 2, and like you say, towards the end of the game, you're bound to have enough allies on the table to be able to quest easily. So yeah, and that is again the downfall of this particular quest, is that the encounter deck is so immense that you may not even see this.
Yeah. So the reason I asked a minute ago about what happened on those a couple of occasions where you did fail, I think you make a really good point about the size of the encounter deck. I wonder as well if the setup is maybe a bit too easy. I wonder if you had like a couple of locations out whether that would actually end up making quite a big difference, actually. Because what I found, I'd get rid of whatever that first card was, then I was in that situation where like, there's not much surge in this.
Mm-hmm.
You do get the occasional thing here and there, but generally speaking, you're getting one card a go. There are a couple of shadow effects and stuff which do cause the goblin to jump out and all that. But generally, it was like one a go, and it never really got out of control like that.
No.
Or sometimes you wanted enemies, you'd want to get them engaged and out the staging area, and you could still control it like that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there were a couple of locations rather than one at the beginning.
Yeah.
Whether that would just make it like way harder.
Well, and it does, because actually this is exactly what happened on this go. So I had Twisting Passage during the setup, and then immediately on my first staging. So then it was really unpleasant because
you went full twisty. You didn't know where you were going.
No, I was all over the place.
You had some Mobius strip of passages.
But let's talk about this card for a moment, because this is actually a really interesting one. It's a bit of a shame actually that you didn't come across it, because actually I think not only is it one of the most difficult cards, it's actually one of the more interesting, because it doesn't allow you to put any progress tokens on it unless you do a locate test. And I wasn't concerned about failing the locate test because of lost effects. Yeah, I was concerned I couldn't get past the blooming card.
Well, he had eight.
Yeah.
Eight already, without another card coming out, already 8 to deal with at the beginning of a game.
Yeah, and you need to get...
that's tough.
So I needed 10 progress tokens on it. Well, 5 on each.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, right. And I guess you'd have to travel to one.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get it out of the staging area, but still, you still have to contend with that. So
yeah, and every time. So just to reiterate, it's any time you want to put progress on it. So that would be the cave torch. That would be exploring.
See, that theming's good, isn't it?
Yeah, the theming is terrific. I think this is
especially once you travelled there.
Yeah,
that's actually excellent. It's like I can't get out of here. I can't complete my quest. I'm lost in these passages. See, that's really. I would have quite liked that to have happened. For that theming element.
Exactly. That's why I want to talk about it for a minute, because I do genuinely think this is really a nice card. Because also it's like. I mean, I didn't have Legolas, for instance. I didn't have him in my deck. But for instance, if his effect of adding quest tokens after killing an enemy, that again would not be possible. Anything that allows you to put on a token would force you to do a locate test first.
Oh.
So you need to make sure that
that's horrible.
Yeah, it really is. So you really have to make sure you pass the locate test, because you've got to be able to get tokens on it. So there are a few ways to do this. Now, I'm going to talk about Shadow of the Past a lot because I was moving cards back out of the encounter discard back onto top of the encounter deck.
The Valley of the Shadow of the Past.
Indeed. I need to talk about the timings of what it says on Cave Torch versus what it says on Twisting Passage. Now I wanted to use the Cave Torch on Twisting Passage, so I used Shadow of the Past to move a treachery actually out of the discard pile, which had a pass written on it. It's foul air. We're going to talk about foul air in a moment, but it has a pass on it. So I knew that when I did the locate test, I would immediately pass. So I used Shadow of the Past to move that back to the top of the encounter deck. And then I activated the Cave Torch to put the progress onto Twisting Passage. Okay?
Yeah.
And then, of course, so Twisting Passage makes you do a locate test. I knew I was going to pass it. Everything was going to be golden. However, this does have a happy ending. But however...
My mind is going to all kinds of places right now.
There are 2 forced effects that trigger when you do the Cave Torch action. There's one on Twisting Passage that says forced Before placing progress tokens on Twisting Passage, the first player makes a locate test. Okay? And then the cave torch...
Oh, you have to discard...
Yes. So it says force, after cave torch exhaust, discard the top card of the encounter deck.
So you have to know the second card of the encounter deck.
Yeah, well, no, because, like I say, there is a happy ending to this. So I had to do a bit of a deep dive.
No, you have to be quite careful about what you do with the deck, right?
Exactly.
What does Shadow of the Past do?
So Shadow of the Past,
no, I know it's
this
the
is my
one where
favorite.
you get this. Yeah, I know. Your favorite
So Shadow
one.
of the Past allows you to take the top card from the encounter discard pile and put it back on top of the encounter deck.
And that's where we had the conversation about in which order do you put things onto the discard pile when you have a shadow card.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the enemy first, then the shadow card on top.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's where we figured out that's why it's called Shadow of the Past.
Well, potentially.
Or the second meaning.
Yes. Okay, so you have these two forced effects triggering at once. I did a deep dive. Wasn't that deep. I think it was just in the fact.
You can choose.
No, you can't choose. Not in this case.
Ah.
If they were worded identically,
See.
you could choose, but they're not worded identically. Forced effects timing are based on the word which immediately follows the forced effect. And that is either going to be before, when, or after.
So before goes first, then when, then after.
Indeed, exactly that.
So the cave torch one's at the end.
Yes.
So you're all right then.
Exactly. Has a happy ending. So Twisting Passages it states before placing progress tokens, blah, blah, blah. So you do that first. That interrupts the cave torch's forced effect, which says after cave torch exhausts. So therefore, my card on top of the encounter deck came out. I passed the locate test. Then I could put the 3 tokens on it. I mean, I still only had 3 tokens on it, but it was an interesting timing effect.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. No, and that does fall in line with the previous discussions on this.
Yeah.
So on the cave torch, it's got the action, exhaust cave torch to place up to 3 progress tokens on dark locations. So you do that. Right, and then you got the forced effect. But then before that forced effect, the Twisted Passage forced effect kicks in because it says before you put the progress on.
Exactly.
So it actually happens before you've completed the action.
Yeah,
of the cave
so
torch,
I'm moving across the table with my tokens. And before that happens, I have to do a locate test.
Centimeters away. Whoa, hold up there,
Tiger.
Hold
on. Whoa. Where are you going with them?
Not into the Twisted Passage.
Oh, I tell you what, well, really scattergunning around now, but Twisting Passage was really causing me grief. But I had Bomber.
That's interesting.
I had Bomber in my deck, and he was
Useful.
really useful. So his action is exhaust Bomber to choose a location. That location gets -1 threat until the end of the phase. The location does not contribute its threat instead if it is an underground location. So that was really, really handy. You could just mitigate it from being in the stage. You just use Bomber just to leave Twisting Passage in the staging area, and then you could just ignore it, basically.
Yeah.
So that's a card you didn't see. But I must say there were cards I didn't see at all. It was only when I started bringing these cards together to record today that it was like, oh, what's this one? No idea.
Oh, I had one yesterday. So on my last game yesterday, going along all merrily, and I came across what's the card which tells you to turn over 3 and add 1 to the staging area? What's that card?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what it's off the top of my head. Is it one of the locations? I can't recall now. Anyway, that wasn't. But anyway, so I did that, and one of the cards that came up was Durin's Greaves.
Oh,
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
All this time I've been playing, I've never seen Durin's Greaves.
No. We'll talk about it because it's a nice thing which is hidden away, but in this enormous encounter deck. It's like,
Well, like I said, I saw it first time yesterday. I was like, what? I was so confused when I saw them. Okay, fair enough. I can't remember what that card is now about the 3. There is one, isn't there? You have to.
Yeah. You have to discard. No, you have to take the top 3. You have to choose one, and then you put the other 2 to the bottom of the. You have to choose one to be revealed. But I can't remember where it exists.
Oh, branching.
Oh, you got it.
Branching Paths. Branching Paths is the name of the.
Okay.
This is an underground dark location. While branching paths in the staging area, each dark location gets +1 threat.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty. This is one we've seen before, I think.
Yeah.
Forced, after branching paths leaves play as an explored location, look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. Players must choose one of those to reveal and add to the staging area, moving the other 2 to the bottom of the deck. Now, I had a question on this just yesterday, which I texted you about.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, players must choose one of those to reveal and add to the staging area. So, and my question was, well, what if you get 3 treacheries? You don't add them to the staging area.
No.
So I'm guessing it's just, you get 3 cards, you just pick one, and the other 2 go to the bottom. And that can be an objective, like Durin's Greaves, because you can add that to the staging area.
Yeah.
So that's how I was playing that. So hopefully I haven't I've only saw that a couple of times, but
actually, so Durin's Greaves wouldn't go to the staging area because actually because that card tells you to reveal it. The when revealed effect on Durin's Greaves would mean it would get attached.
You don't have to claim it. Yeah,
no,
exactly. But same as the treachery, it would never be in the staging area.
No.
Yeah, but you can still choose it.
I
just want to make that because that was slightly confusing to me. I just want to make that clear to people. If you come across that card, just pick one.
You didn't actually have to choose the worst thing for once.
Yeah, and that's what was surprising to me about it. So it has to be an enemy or a location.
But Durin's Greaves, so they're a pair of shiny boots.
Very shiny.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Are Greaves for boots? Or are the Greaves like the shin pads?
Oh, could well be the shin pads.
I think they're the shin pads, aren't they? Greaves?
Yeah, could well be.
Jimmy shin pads.
Ginny Recon.
Good player.
So this is it's an objective card, and it's an artifact, and it is armor, and it says when revealed, the first player attaches Durin's Greaves to a hero of his choice as an attachment. Attached hero gets +1 defense. It's nice, but you'll never see it. I think I saw it once.
Whacked them on here. Yeah, I saw it literally once yesterday.
Yeah.
Whacked them on Gimli, and that was the end of that. Whoever it was.
Okay, so I don't know if we even need to go through all of these cards. Are there any that sort of jump out on you that you want to go over?
You mentioned Foul Air.
Oh yeah, Foul Air. I do want to discuss Foul Air.
And I did actually trigger this one, which did get rid of a couple of my allies.
Do you want to read it?
It even didn't make that much difference in the end. But so Foul Air, but the artwork on here, like that person, elf, is breathing some foul air.
Foul air.
Not enjoying themselves.
No.
When revealed, the first player makes a locate test. If this test is failed, deal 2 damage to all characters and trigger all lost effects in play. So again, no lost effects when I thought I can take the 2 damage, but it means I've got to lose a Gondorian spearman or something and a snowborn scout, and see you later.
Yeah.
That was the end of that. But that could be a nasty one, I would imagine, if you got it at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, I quickly talk about this one because, like you say, normally, it's not nice. 2 damage on all characters is pretty unpleasant. The Lost Effect, yeah, I see. This is I mean, we're really repeating ourselves now, but the Lost Effect just didn't bother me at all.
No.
I think unless we otherwise state the Lost Effects didn't affect us at all. So, but the one revealed was painful and can be painful. Of course, it's 2 hit points. Like I say, you if you've got allies out, it's going to kill a lot of them. But actually, the first deck I chose, it's not the one that it was a deck that I had from a previous quest, I think. So it's certainly not the one that I continued playing on this one, but it had Bilbo in it, and he only has 2 hit points.
Yeah, right.
So if I failed the locate test from foul air, it would kill him. So that's not ideal. So actually, you'll like this.
Go on.
But things I want to talk about. Okay, I'm going to talk about 2 things. One, I'm going to talk about another small action window.
It's a small one. Like for one at the end, the small one. Where's this one?
1 second. Let me just check I've got this in the right order. Because I've got all these. Like I told you, it's all about timing.
Yeah.
So this one will come out as a treachery. Yeah. So, yes, I do need to talk about this other small action window because this one is great. So this one is at the end of the resource phase, which is before planning. Now, I think because we played this game for so long, we kind of just give our guys resources and then we immediately start, we draw a card and then we immediately start working out which allies and attachments, etc. we're going to play that round. And it kind of all melds into one thing. But actually, that's 2 different phases. It's the resource phase where you get resources for everyone, and then you draw a card. And then there's planning. It's a whole new phase where you decide what you're going to play out. Okay. Now, in between these 2 phases is an action window, a small, perfectly formed action window. Okay, but it's actually it's the end of the resource phase. Okay. Right. Now, the first time I discovered this was fantastic because I had a great cave troll in the staging area. And I mean, we've mentioned this guy a few times. Hang on, let me just quickly grab him to great cave troll. Where is he? There he is. All you really need to know is that he is nasty. He takes 10 hit points to take down, and he hits for 7. He's nasty. And he
has 3 shield too.
Oh yeah. He is a great cave troll. So he was in the staging area, and I knew that, oh my god, I'm gonna have to get rid of this guy. My threat was getting up quite high. He was going to be engaging me for sure, and I found this small action window at the end of the resource phase in which I played a sneak attack Gandalf. So Gandalf came into play and I put 4 damage on the Great Cave Troll. He then immediately came back to my hand.
You double Gandalfed.
And then during the planning phase, I played him out.
I paid
for Gandalf again. And if I had another sneak attack, I'd have snuck him in again. But I paid for him legitimately.
So that is something for everyone to bear in mind for any scenario.
Absolutely.
So the whole sneak attack, that's quite a revelation. So the whole sneak attack Gandalf thing, you can actually double bubble. If you need to get 8 hit points on somebody, you can do it twice or 12 hit points, like you say, 2 sneak attacks and an actual Gandalf.
Yeah, well,
straight.
I don't think. No, you couldn't do 2 sneak attacks on an actual Gandalf in one go because you would need. Because he, even during a sneak attack, he comes back at the end of the phase.
Okay, Fine.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you could either do it cheaply or you could do it by paying through the nose for the wizard.
Is that the very first action window? Is there an action window at the start of a resource phase?
Potentially, but he would still come back to your hand at the end of the resource phase. So you wouldn't get another action window until the planning.
Yeah, but then you could do one in the resource phase and one in the planning phase.
Yeah, but it's the same number of Gandalfs. It's always 2.
Oh, yes, of course, because then you couldn't actually play Gandalf.
Yeah,
understood.
yeah.
But that's still a cracker,
Isn't it? Isn't it?
That's a cracker. So any game you can do a sneak attack Gandalf and then an actual Gandalf.
Yeah.
Or 2 sneak attack Gandalfs.
Yeah, or a sneak attack anyone in that first phase. And
yeah, for sure.
If there was a reason to do so.
Excellent. My mind is going again into many different places.
Oh, it was lovely to find that small action window.
The little ones are the best ones, right?
So this is what I did. This is to do with foul air, if you can remember.
Oh, yes.
So foul air was going to kill Bilbo. How did I know this? Because I had Hennemarth River Song. Bear with me. At the end of the previous round, I scried the encounter deck with Hennemarth, and I saw that foul air was coming out the next round. Okay, and then I readied everybody, and I went, okay, well, so foul air's coming, and that's going to kill Bilbo.
Again, I thought you were going to say Kill Bill. That's twice. What was the other one? I can't remember now. Okay. Kill Bilbo. That would be one hell of a Tarantino.
Oh my
film.
goodness, Kill Bilbo.
Some
dear, Kill Bill.
Ninja Warrior rocking up at Bag End, knocking on the door. Sorry.
So I've lost it. So luckily I've not had to do a locate test. So I knew, thank you. I knew that foul air was coming. Then that was going to kill Bilbo. So then I used word of command, which was, okay, hang on, I know I realize I'm talking about lots of different cards that we've talked about in the past, but you may have forgotten about. So word of command is that event card, which allows you to exhaust an Ishtari. It's a lore event. Hang on, I've got it right here. Okay. We talked about it during talk about the lore cards. So it's word of command. It's an event card and it has an action. It says exhaust an Istari character to search your deck for one card and add it to your hand and then shuffle your deck. And then we discussed about, but do you really want to exhaust Gandalf, which is basically our only Istari at the moment, to just go and find one card? It's very powerful. And then that's when I said, aha, we have the small action window at the very end of the game. Just before Gandalf leaves, you ready him, then you exhaust him again, and then you can go digging in your deck with this card for any card. And that's wonderful. But I found that there was another time to use it, which was this time. Because in my hand, I had a test of will, which I could use to cancel the foul air when revealed. However, I didn't have any spirit heroes. So I had songs? I had no way of paying for it. So I used word of command on Gandalf. So I played out Gandalf. I used word of command immediately, exhausted him, went digging through my deck. This is all during planning. Found Celebrian Stone. Got it out, attached it to Aragorn. He got the spirit icon, and then I could, when foul air got revealed, I could play a test of will and therefore Bilbo survived. But then I did make a small note that that very round he was killed by a cave troll.
Bilbo. Just like smacked him with a massive club.
Oh dear!
Off he
Sorry,
went.
that
All
was,
that hassle.
that was very long-winded, but I mean, it was a.
Don't worry, Bilbo. I will save you from this foul air. Just go over there.
Yeah,
There's
just
no
wait.
foul air there.
Yeah. Oh.
There's just a massive cave troll.
I apologise that was really. I had to explain about 6 different
No,
cards.
but
I
that's the
think
game.
I think the main takeaway is that foul air can be quite bad, and there is a really useful extra small
Action window.
action window.
Just a small one.
Just a small
Another
one.
small one. Shall we polish off the last couple of these
Let's
cards?
do it.
Then,
Let's do it.
Before we talk about
Yeah.
effects. And so we spoke about the cave troll. Oh, there was another treachery, wasn't there? I think we touched on it in the insert sheet. Vast and intricate.
Oh yeah.
The first player makes a locate test. It sounds bad, but it ain't that bad. If his test is failed, raise each player's threat by 7, remove all progress tokens from play, and trigger all lost effects in play. Now, I would find, like, just for a change, the lost effects weren't doing too much. I was getting through it fairly quickly, so even a threat of 7 wasn't the end of the world, and I could always Gandalf. Normally, I was using Gandalf to get cards, to be honest.
Yeah.
But and then remove all progress tokens from play. Yes, obviously that can be annoying,
Yeah.
but I was finding I'd get to a point where I was questing, well enough that, okay, fine, but it just means an extra couple of rounds just to complete it.
I would say this would be about when it came out. If this came out right at the end and you'd almost got 17
That would be very annoying.
progress, that would be annoying. But I don't think it really bothered me, to be honest.
No, same here, must say.
I mean, it's pretty unpleasant, but yeah. I was playing with Law Aragorn, so if my threat went up too high, I would just trigger his effect and bring my threat back down to the starting. So again, not too bothered by that. What else have we got here?
Quite a good theme on that, though, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
You've made a wrong turn.
You've really made a wrong turn. You've really made a wrong turn.
Lovely stuff.
So, I mean, we mentioned earlier the rock adder.
I love the theme. I don't like the snakes and stuff. I always find quite nasty, but I do love the theme on this.
Yeah, it is beautiful theming. So the rock adder is an enemy. It has an engagement cost of 20. So it's just coming at you. It doesn't have to wait for anything. It's just going to have it's just going to strike. It has a threat of 1. It hits for 3. It has no defense and 3 hit points. It is a creature. And it states rock adder cannot be attacked unless it has dealt at least 1 damage this round. So basically, it's got to take a chunk out of someone.
You get it because you can't get it because it's a little snake. But when it nips you, you can just hit it with a sword just as it nips away from you. That's such a good feeling.
Yeah, fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah,
and 1 damage this round.
Yeah,
not phased. To bear in mind, this is one where I'd have to take. Well, you could still just put direct damage onto it, like through Gandalf or something like that.
Yeah.
So that well, the key word is rock adder cannot be attacked. So you could still Gondorian spearman.
Yep.
Damage on it. So all of those kind of ways. You literally just can't say I attack for rock adder.
Exactly.
He was nasty.
Yeah.
Can I say one treachery card, which I never really again. I liked the sound of this, but I never really saw it going.
Go on then.
To be honest with you. And it was Gathering Ground.
I'm looking at it now and I'm wondering if I've ever seen it before. It's quite evocative artwork.
Amazing artwork. I mean, you're in trouble there.
Yeah.
When revealed, attach this card to a location in the staging area with the highest combined threat and remaining quest points.
I've never read these words.
Yeah, I again, this is just something again which come out and just didn't do anything. Where and then in brackets, counts as a condition attachment with the text, each enemy revealed from the encounter deck gains surge.
Okay.
So this is saying that there's a location you can't quite, is building up and you can't quite get rid of yet. And in the meantime, it could get a whole bunch of enemies.
Yeah.
And again, I think this to me is evocative of the almost but not quite theming of the theming's good, but almost not quite execution of this quest. Yeah. I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because it could be amazing.
Yeah, it's really nasty if it would work. And I genuinely think this is the first time I've read it.
I think I literally only saw it for the first time yesterday. Again, I think maybe there's only one in the entire deck. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't like to count them. By the way,
no,
I don't want to know how many of each one there are.
No. There's a goblin here, which I think I saw once. Goblin Warlord. He's got a threat of 39. So, he's got an engagement cost of 39. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's coming at you. He's got a threat of 4, hits for 3, defense of 3, and 5 hit points. So he's pretty tough. I mean, he's a warlord. He's a goblin orc. And it just has a lost effect on it. I almost didn't read it because it says each player must choose and discard one ally he controls from play if able. I mean, yeah, even with that lost effects triggers, it's probably not that bad. But actually, he's just a bit of a tough guy.
Yeah, really tough. And 4 threat, you want to engage this guy probably.
Yeah.
And then there was another one, another treachery again, which falls into the same category as the previous one. Called Fatigue. And
who are you calling Fatigue?
Well, Eeg. Obviously. Then there's a very tired looking chap, as you'd expect. This card.
That's probably Eeg, isn't it?
Yeah, poor old Eeg.
Can't catch his breath.
Good. Yeah, poor guy. Has a when revealed effect. Each player must exhaust one character he controls if able. Doesn't sound so bad.
No.
Then, if any player controls no unexhausted characters, fatigue gains surge. So that could, again, you could imagine situations where you've only got one character left. Yeah, quite often I would imagine. Mm-hmm. You need one guy to defend just in case you get an enemy, blah blah blah. And then if you could surge into something bad, but again, because of the control you generally have of the staging area, that wasn't really. The idea of it's great. Oh, everyone's exhausted and there's more enemies coming. And then you can't do anything about it because you're all knackered.
Yeah. I mean, I think the themes of the cards are great. It's just the
theme's great.
You just don't see them.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's the execution, isn't it? And the mechanics.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's. Oh no, there's one. Well, there's definitely one more enemy that I want to discuss, which is the cave spider.
Oh.
Yeah,
that old chestnut.
Oh, okay. So it's a really nasty bit of work. I mean, it's a spider, for goodness sake. It has an engagement cost of 31. It has a threat of 3, hits for 2, 1 defense, and 4 hit points. So it doesn't sound too bad, but it is a spider and a creature. And it says, when revealed, the first player draws 1 card. Then the player must choose and discard 4 cards from his hand if able. Okay, you think that's bad enough. It also has a forced effect that after the cave spider engages a player, that player must choose and discard 1 card from his hand if able. Now, when you're playing one player, all of this is happening to you. I mean, you can sort of spread the pain a bit if you're playing multiplayer. But basically, it is nasty, especially that first one revealed effect. So basically, you get to draw 1 card, but then you're going to lose 4 in total from your hand, which can be quite devastating.
For you particularly, that's a devastation of sorts.
Yeah. I cry into my beer.
And of course, that won't help you. The idea of this probably being to influence how you get through the locate tests, but as the locate tests aren't that brutal anyway, again...
Yeah.
still always comes back to the same thing, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. I didn't even cross my mind, the fact that I wouldn't have cards in my hand to be able to get through a locate. I just want my cards. Just you can't.
No other thought would enter your head if someone's taking your cards
do
away.
not take my cards away. But I'm gonna mention this now because it was to do with this specific card, because I really didn't like this at all. But again, it's another use for Shadow of the Past yet again. So at the end of the round, again, I used Henemarth to see what was coming next for the next round. And it was the Cave Spider. It's like, okay, I do not want to see this guy come out of the encounter deck. So I used Shadow of the Past to put a card from the encounter discard pile back on top. And the card I put there was Chance Encounter. That's a treachery that we've seen in a previous quest. And Chance Encounter puts the top enemy from the encounter discard pile into play engaged with the first player. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just reading it now. It's almost to the word.
That's
very impressive.
Oh, thank you very much. So what I did is I put that back on top of the encounter deck. So I knew I was getting that, but I just didn't want this spider to come out. So what I did is, and I knew that the enemy that was going to come at me was the goblin follower, he's no slouch, but I figured that that's better than the spider. And also, because I'd played Shadow of the Past like this, I knew that I was going to get that treachery. So therefore, I could really make sure I quested sort of lightly, leaving enough allies back to be able to defeat the goblin follower.
Yeah.
You know, I'd already planned that far ahead. So I played that out, and Chance Encounter came out, and then the goblin follower came and was engaged with me. But here's the real beauty of this move, is that I knew that the spider would be the shadow card.
Yeah.
Very
nice.
Yeah.
You turned the shadow, the spider into a shadow. You sent it away into the deeps.
Shadow of the future, if you like.
Yes, exactly. No, but that's genius. I like that. You just transformed that spider.
Yeah.
See, I haven't done a deck like that in quite a while in terms of that sort of deck manipulation thing. Ever since my ridiculous inadvertent cheating on, is it Bomber? Who's the guy? No, Ziggle. What is it? Who's a dwarf that is with the lantern, and you can turn over the first card. And I was using it completely wrong and like doing massive cheating. Anyway, that guy.
Yeah. That's a classic.
Yeah, that was probably my worst out of all the inadvertent. Apart from my very first go when I was getting resources after every phase.
Every phase, yeah. Incredibly rich.
It was so easy, this game.
Okay, well, we may have missed a card or two from the encounter deck, but nothing that we should really write home about, I don't think. But do you want to... I mean, it's not going to be much of a discussion because I've mostly gone through my deck about what I was using to manipulate everything and to quest through. So is there anything you want to highlight from your deck?
I mean, so my deck was similar to the last one. So it was quite a traditional deck. So Aragorn, Gimli, Thalin.
Yeah. And which Aragorn?
Original. Mm-hmm. Original Aragorn.
Origigorn.
Origigorn. Very good. So he could ready himself after questing whatever, and Thalin would just whack a mole as each one came out.
I had Thalin and two, and he was quite useful. Just an extra hit each time. We know how to play Thalin.
Yeah, exactly. We had to play Thalin, and then I had Gimli. So at the beginning, I'd generally quest people, everyone pretty much, and the shadows aren't that bad in this, and the enemies, apart from one or two, don't really hit for anything too brutal. So I'd take an undefended on Gimli as quick as I could and just get him beefed up.
Yeah.
Whilst maintaining control of the encounter deck. And then basically, so I had a couple of ways to do things, but generally Faramir actually made some appearances yesterday when I was playing this quite regularly. Super useful. So then I had other allies such as the veteran axe hand, who you could actually use to quest if you got Faramir as well. And I'd stack it with things like... So what I found I used a lot as well in this deck was a lot of the tactics, sort of defensive and offensive cards, actually. So I'd use Khazad, for instance. So I'd have... so yesterday, I got 2 cave trolls in the staging area. I engaged them both. I used a feint on both of them, so neither of them could attack.
Yeah.
I had a beefed up Gimli with a Dwarrowdelf axe. So when he attacked him, he already got 1 damage from the axe. He was beefed up. He was hitting for whatever it was. And then I used is it called Khazad? Which one? It's a free one. Yeah, it costs naught.
Yeah.
Costs naught. It gives the dwarf character plus 3 attack to the end of the phase. So him plus one of the other sort of chumps just together took out 1 cave troll instantly. I did the classic sneak attack Gandalf with Aragorn, I think, to basically almost take out the other one with my other allies, and then brought in Gandalf properly on the next round and just got rid of him.
Perfect.
So, and that's basically the trickiest opponents got by a mile, and dealt with them really easily just because of deck. But I was, so like I say, using things like Durin's Song. So that one, so that's a leadership card, leadership event, and that one is action. Choose a dwarf hero. That hero gets +2 quest, +2 shield, and +2 attack until the end of the round. And you can use, and it costs 1, and you can put a couple or 3 if you. I actually end up with 3 on, which I can't remember. I think it was Gimli I chose on that yesterday when I did some ridiculous quest just to get through. I quested it in one go. That last card yesterday, because I had nothing in the staging area, basically.
Yeah, but that's also what I found on that last card, is I'd have so little in the staging area on stage 2. It'd be just like, well, let's get questing, boys.
Yeah. I didn't, and you know what? On the ones where I had Steward of Gondor, I would get through really quickly.
Yeah.
Really quickly. But when I didn't, I would still get through fairly quickly. It still wasn't that much of a challenge even without it, even with 1 leadership hero.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, So, like I said, I think maybe this deck happens to be very much geared up to sort of defeating this quest. But, like I say, it was nothing special in the deck, really. They're pretty standard leadership and tactics stuff. I did put, there's a couple of attachments, I guess, which you like. You mentioned Celebrian Stone.
Yeah,
it's not Celebrian, not Celeb, right?
Celebrian.
He's not
Celebrian.
Celebrian. Yeah. So things like Sword That Was Broken.
Yes.
I didn't always play, but for instance, so that's a leadership one. Attached to a hero, attached hero gains a leadership resource icon. If attached hero is Aragorn, which is who I was attaching, each character you control gets +1 quest.
Yeah.
So things like that. So using Faramir, using that, you could really stay in control of the questing. And then with your tactics cards, you just dealt with the enemies.
Yeah.
And the treacheries weren't that bad because of the lack of those, what are they called?
Lost effects?
Lost effects, thank you. I lost it. So that was my. It was pretty straightforward.
But that's interesting because actually I thought, our decks are probably a little bit different, but actually the content-wise they're quite similar because I had a Trisphere deck, so I was running Law Aragorn.
Yeah.
Which, so like I say, that was occasionally handy just to bring my threat down, but it wasn't vital. I wasn't pushing like 47, 48 or anything. It was just like, it's got into the low 40s. I'll bring it down this round, just to be, because my starting threat, I think was 32, which is perfectly reasonable. And then I also had Thalin, Don't need to go over that again. Exactly the same reasons for you say. And I had Dane, which was adding questing ability to all dwarves. And then exactly what you were saying. I had Celebrian Stone and Sword That Was Broken. I was putting them both onto Gandalf and using Master of the Forge to dig these out.
Both onto...
Oh, sorry. What did I say?
Gandalf.
Gandalf. Don't put them onto Gandalf. That's not allowed.
Bugger off.
That's not allowed. He'll only leave. No, onto Aragorn. And then of course that's once you've got those out, that sorted out all my resource smoothing, because Aragorn could pay for everything. I'd get Steward of Gondor on him as well, and then we had enough questing ability as well. So maybe they were quite similar. I mean, the only difference being really that I was doing a lot of encounter deck manipulation just because I enjoy doing that. I got two things to bring up. My last two timing. Timing is everything. Secret of good comedy. And one to do with Farlin that I just sort of, and then one final Shadow of the Past usage. And it's all about moving to quest card 2. You reminded me of it then. So when you move from quest card 1 to quest card 2, 99% of the time it will be during the quest phase, because you would have quested enough to put the progress on, and then quest card 2 immediately comes into play. Now, two things on this is so quest card 2 forces you to do a locate test, and if you fail that, you have to reveal a card from the encounter deck. If you fail that and then you reveal an enemy, if you had quest Farlin, when you had started that initial quest phase, he would still add a damage to that enemy. Even though lots and lots of things have happened, you're still in the quest phase, and he would still be committed to the quest, and the enemy would have been revealed. So you would still put a damage on that enemy.
I'm not sure. I probably wasn't doing that.
Yeah, it's a little
That's
thing.
a good point.
But it's a little thing, but it's good to know, because any little bonus that you can get is worth taking in this game.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing is about with again, the last Shadow of the Past thing is that if and this of course you have to have played the quest through once to know what quest card 2 is going to say. But if you know you are about to complete quest card 1, you can use Shadow of the Past to move a encounter card which has a pass on it back to the top of the encounter deck to just anticipate moving on to quest card 2, and then you could do your locate test and pass it. It's another way. It's another way that Shadow of the Past just makes your life so beautiful.
You could probably write a little book on Shadow of the Past. I think you've got so many uses for it. I still don't really use it. I really should. No. But at least I feel like I was stealing your thunder if I started doing that.
Yeah, but at least this time you haven't asked me what sphere it is, which is what you normally do. It's neutral.
Is it? Yeah. That means it doesn't have a sphere.
No, it does not. But it means you put it in any deck you like.
Oh, hold on a minute. Is this the whole Gandalf controversy thing? Was that Shadow of the Past?
No, that's not. That was.
I'm getting all mixed. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. The controversy about that you could.
Of any sphere.
Could you could.
But neutral is not a sphere.
Yeah,
so
it's not a sphere. So you couldn't bring Gandalf out of somewhere because it didn't exist. It was some card that took something out of your discard pile, I think.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
I can't remember what card or when, but it was one of the very early facts.
You take something out of your discard pile, put it in your hand, right?
Potentially.
Spirit one or something.
No, not Spirit.
The actual card. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
No, not Spirit. Right.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, in summary, what do we think about this quest then?
Well, I think like I said earlier, I think theme-wise, it's pretty great, but you don't actually get the opportunity to experience that theming. So, because of the mechanics of it, so I think it kind of was like an almost but not quite quest for me. I did not enjoy playing it. Yeah, I always enjoy playing this game generally, and and it's a bit of a sail through, but there wasn't too much of a challenge, and it seemed like you're in Moria. You can hear a whole bunch of stuff happening here, there, and everywhere, but you've actually just found this one tunnel which just goes directly to where you need to go, and somehow the enemies don't know about it. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, and that was that. No, I think I completely agree. I mean, for me, it's you can see what they were trying to do, and the cards themselves are beautifully themed. It's just that theme doesn't get realized, and that's a bit of a shame. So it's a bit of an own goal. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but
I'd say I wouldn't say an own goal. I'd say they've had a half chance and they've hit it wide.
Scuffed it.
They scuffed it a little bit and just missed the target.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'll allow it.
Very good of you.
No need for VAR on that one. Okay, well, not much more to say other than I think it's great that we're playing again and recording again. And I mean, we've said it before and we'll say it again, no doubt. Hopefully this will spur us on to do some more recordings again soon.
Yeah. I'm actually very keen to get some regular recording going again.
Me too.
So let's keep our fingers crossed. Do we know what's next on our list? Obviously, it's going to be
it's going to be player cards.
Player cards.
I think it's the last. Maybe Spirit. We say Spirit's the last. It's possible. Oh. It's definitely possible.
Excellent.
And as we've said before, the when we are moving on to player cards, it's a little easier. We can go into that a bit more cold. We don't have to have played the game. We can just sort of grab the cards and set up the mic and off we go. So fingers crossed, we'll be on that soon. But until then, unless you have anything else to add, then
nothing more from me, my friend.
Okay. So until then,
I need a cup of tea.
I'm ready for some more food.
I'm quite ready for another meal.
Well, how you can get in touch. That's what I...
Yes,
there we go. There's always something. So if you would like to get in touch with us, we have an email address, which is lateoftherings@gmail.com. We do have a Twitter or X. I don't look...
I think in light of recent events, we just close that down.
Close that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. Anyone who is still a keen X user, good for you. You're allowed to do whatever you like, but we don't look at that at all. So perhaps it's time to put a cross through it. An X.
Fly off.
Yeah. And Board Game Geek. There's the Board Game Geek thread, which I do try and keep an eye on and will respond to. So with that, all it leaves me to say is thanks once again for listening. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.